So while we're talking about Celtic, Scott, if I was Celtic, I'm keeping a close eye on this. What's happening with Lennon Miller? Are you hearing anything? Do you expect them to get involved in this argument?
I think they are keeping a close eye on it. I mean, we've also got people who've worked with him, like Steve McManus was at Fir Park when he was coming through the ranks. There's a few people at Celtic who know him well. I think they will be keeping an eye on it. But the one thing that might have killed Lennon Miller, surprisingly, would be the emergence of Luke McCowan. He's come in from Dundee. He plays that same position. He's a Scottish one. He's actually made that. He's made a real mark there. I know Lennon Miller's younger and a different player, but does that stifle Lennon Miller's chances to play if he goes to Celtic? I mean, look at the Celtic team. If you're Lennon Miller, where does he play?
No, I see your point. To be fair,
you've got Engels, you've got Callum McGregor. You know what I mean? You've got McCowan, you've got Bernardo. Where is he going to play? And that's I think when it comes to Lennon Miller, he's obviously going to be guided by his agent and his dad. His dad's been out on the course. His dad will give him good guidance and tell him what to do. But it always seems to me that if Lennon's going to go, he wants to go somewhere where he can play football regularly. I'm not convinced that he would do that at Celtic at this stage unless they bought him and put him out on loan. You know what I mean?
Well, there are trailblazers, aren't there, for him? There's no shortage of trailblazers. Your Lewis Fergusons and all that, and obviously Scott McTominay now and Billy Gilmore over there. And it's almost like the Italian clubs see young Scottish talent like the new Gucci man bag. Everybody's got to have one, and he could cash in on that. And by the way, if he was to go there, you could see him playing regularly because they've clearly identified him as a guy that could come in and have the same sort of impact as the other Scottish boys. I see your point, Scott, but little birdie tells me that Lennon Miller was quite a big Celtic fan as a kid growing up.
No, yeah, there is that element to it, yeah.
So there would be an emotional pull and a lure there.
See, and the other thing is that he's moving away from home. If he wants to make that move, maybe he'll still have the family support there.
Yeah. See, just going back to the price. So do you guys think, what are we talking, between 7 and 8 million?
No, I think if somebody can trigger a 5, get
more than 5,
close to 5. Get close to 5, and now depends how you structure the deal. Scott knows all about that sort of stuff, add-ons and clauses and various ways of making the money up. But I think if someone can get close or near the ballpark of £5 million, I think Motherwell will do a deal, and I think it'll be a sore one for the Motherwell fans. But I think Motherwell fans, they're realistic. They've known all along that this boy's a bit of a golden goose, and at some point they will have to sell him, and they'll be happy to take the cash. They'll miss him, obviously. Such a good player, such a promising talent. But I think once you get close to in and about the sort of £5 million mark, I think that's time to do business.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but I don't think Lennon Miller will go in this window. I mean, normally the big money's spent in the summer window.
Well, he's also injured just now, isn't he?
He's injured. He's out for a couple of months. So why get it in? But I mean, there are a lot of clubs looking at him, and as I said, I was told there earlier on that Eintracht Frankfurt are one of them who've been looking at him very closely for several months, and the player model and those close to him are aware of that interest from Eintracht Frankfurt. But if that was to happen, that would be towards the summer. And I think Brian Caldwell even alluded to that on the not to Eintracht Frankfurt, but the fact is that his stats, when you look at it on the analytics for his age, he's one of the. I think he said that he was probably one of the 7 best players in his position in Europe for his age. So that's why these top clubs are now looking at these sort of players. I mean,
it's speculate to accumulate. It's not. We're not talking kind of lottery winning numbers for these clubs. That's not a lot of money, but if their analytics and their data is pointing to something special, the potential for something special, they're quite happy to go and take a punt for £5 million and see where it takes them. I'm interested, Scott. I'm really interested to see how this plays out over the course of January. I suspect you may be right. I suspect in the best long-term interest, especially joining a club while you've still got a couple of, at least a month or so of rehab in front of you. Not ideal. It might well be in everybody's best interest to hunker down and wait for the summer, but you just feel something's brewing with Lennon Miller, don't you?
There's a lot of people in the comments as well saying maybe Celtic could sign him and loan him back Do you think it's a realistic prospect?
Like, certainly, I mean, if it was a case of getting regular football, then it'd probably be a good business for Motherwell as well, you know what I mean? But I mean, it's what, but going back to the Udinese one, you mean, they were the ones, I think they were all over Lewis Ferguson at the start. And then, but the longer it went on, more teams came in, and that's when your Bologna's and that came in at the end. And you can see that happening with Lennon Miller, because, I mean, Udinese and Watford are always trying to get in there at the start to try and get them cheaper. And then when others come in, they low ball, and then they sort of walk away.
Aye.